Hello, this is Bruce Reviews Music, and today I'm gonna present to you a list of my top 25 albums of 2019. I will go through the first 15 albums in a quick way to talk about the top 10 more in detail. Let's start. On number 25 I have La Dispute with Panorama, another great album from the very inventive and very emotional post-hardcore band, the most stripped down one so far, and it's very introspective, but nevertheless it's really emotionally crushing. My number 24 is Lightning Bolt with Sonic Citadel. This noise rock band once again proved that they are among the best in the genre. This one is really fun, it's one of their catchiest albums so far, and for noise rock this is a very good starting point for people to get into. My number 23 is Blood Incantation, US death metal band with Hidden History of the Human Race. My favorite death metal album of the year, very progressive, very technical, and one very long song, one instrumental song, a spacey psychedelic tech death trip. My number 22, Bruce Springsteen, Western Stars. Another great album from the boss. It's a more mainstream one, I think, not that far into rock territory, more folk and country songs. This is really nice. The production is not good in every song, but overall Springsteen manages to go in a new direction in a higher age. That's to be appreciated, and also he still sounds a lot like himself on this album. My number 21 is FKA Twigs with Magdalene. This glitch pop and alternative R&B album is a bit inconsistent, but the production is really innovative and it has some real bangers. It's relatively short, so that works hugely in its favor here. For my number 20, it's MC Ta with Rito de Passar, a beautiful fresh combination of funk, karaoke and R&B into electronic Brazilian folk music. It's really engaging and fun, great record to look more into the South American style of music. Another South American record, at least partly, is Oasis by J Balvin and Bad Bunny. It's a very fun reggaeton and track collaboration, and it's my number 19 for this year, with the two biggest artists from this genre kind of working together for one of the best summer albums of the year. My number 18 is very different from that, Liturgy with HAQQ, an innovative black metal album, atmospheric sounds, cinematic production, and some of the greatest songwriting this very polarizing band has done today. Literally still a great band to check out for you. My number 17 is a German singer-songwriter Lily Among Clouds with Green Flesh. She's sitting in a good place between indie pop and chamber pop here. Lily manages to strike a nice balance on this album between unique ballads and more catchy pop songs. The album lacks a bit on an overall theme, I think, or coherent flow, but the songwriting is really good. Also saw her live this year, was absolutely amazing. My number 16 is Lizzo, Cause I Love You. This is a fun take on the current state of the art in soul and rap, and Lizzo has a great personality. Juice is such an uber hit that a few more of these kind of Janelle Monáe songs would have been nice on this, but this is still one of the greatest pop records of the year. My number 15 is Lingua Ignota with Caligula, a very dark and depressing but also very sprawling and eclectic combination of industrial, neoclassical dark wave, some chamber pop even, and metal inspired singing. Really overpowering, crushing, very emotional and heavy album, very interesting direction to go into. My number 14 is Blank Mars with Animated Violence Mild, combining harsh industrial electro moments with some future pop, even some hints of bubblegum bass and deconstructed club. This album is really entertaining and very forward thinking at the same time. One of my favorite electronic projects of this year. My number 13 is Wasteblood with Titanic Rising, one of the critics' favorites of this year. This baroque pop and indie folk album kind of managed to get me on second and third listen. It's lush and very watery, like the title says. It's nothing to listen to in the background, but if you submerge yourself into the atmosphere of this album, it's pretty great. The songwriting is great as well, so this is high up my list. My number 12 is Canadian prog metal god Devin Townsend with Empath. Devin manages to make the most extremely creative and overwhelmingly colorful prog metal record, exceptionally fun most of the time. Sometimes it's a bit too much over the top. There's even an appearance of Chad Kroeger from Nickelback here, but it kinda works. So, Devin Townsend, Empath, amazing progressive metal album. And my number 11 is Australian electronic producer Flume with his mixtape Hi, This Is Flume. Although it's got some loose ends and really feels like a mixtape rather than an album, this is by far Flume's best project and one of the most engaging and exciting wonky and deconstructed club releases of the last few years. Really amazing album. I love this electronic project. Starting off my top 10 with Clipping, the hip-hop project Clipping released There Existed an Addiction to Blood this year, and this industrial hip-hop album is one of the best musical depictions of classical horror movies. And the social critique on here that's brought to the listener via these horror samples, the lyrics, the gory instrumentals is absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite hip-hop releases of the year. My number 9 is the British experimental and noise rock band Black MIDI with Schlagenheim. A crazy record. This goes into no wave and some indie rock as well, with a lot of meandering but nevertheless striking material. The songwriting is really good on this one. That's especially a good point for a noise rock or no wave band. It's a strange combination, but it works. Especially the vocals are just over the top, really crazy, and I love it. My number 9, Black MIDI, Schlagenheim. In my number 8 spot, it's Vampire Weekend, Brooklyn indie band with Father of the Bride. This is the album that kinda dwarfs all their other stuff in my opinion. I know I may be a little bit alone with this opinion. Although it's very long for an indie rock record, there is not much filler here and there is so many small and cute hits on the album. It's just pure fun, and after re-listening to their older stuff, I think this is my favorite Vampire Weekend record, Father of the Bride, my number 8. In place number 7, I have American heavy metal and gothic metal band Idle Hands with Mana. A stunning combination of gothic rock and heavy metal with a great dynamic vocalist and some really great songwriting. One of the most interesting young bands from the heavy metal spectrum that came out over the last 2 years. Really a band to watch, my number 7. And staying in kind of classic heavy metal territory with the German band Atlantean Codex and The Course of Empires. This is, in my opinion, one of the best heavy metal albums of the decade. The historically inspired lyrics are rich, the production is lush, the use of choirs is gigantic, but not to power metal levels, and the overall atmosphere is overwhelming. It's really worth a second listen. The lyrics, as I said, are amazing. They are also dealing with some developments in modern politics here in Europe. Atlantean Codex were always a band that kind of had some subversive messages in their songs, and I really love this album. I think it's their best one. The Course of Empire, my number 6 for this year. My number 5 album is from an artist that I really had to see live to fully appreciate what she was going for on this one. It's Charli XC with Charli. And this is Charli finally coming into her own with a full-length album. This is clearly the best of both worlds for her, between the experimental sounds inspired by the PC music catalog and her earlier poppier stuff. This album is full with hits. It's a very long pop album and I love it because it has these perfect mixtures of experimentation and catchy songwriting, some really cool features like Lizzo, Kim Petras or even Estonian rapper Tommy Cash on the great song Click. And Charli is my second favorite pop album of the year. One is to come later. My number 4 is American experimental electronic duo Matmos with Plastic Anniversary. This is one of the most inventive and original electronica albums that I have heard this decade. The best thing about it is that it's very entertaining at the same time. They are only using plastic equipment on this, only using plastic samples to create this crazy glitch and wonky music. Plastic Anniversary is really a career high point for Matmos. I think it's even a bit creepy and maybe for some people also off-putting, but I think Plastic Anniversary is one of the most entertaining electronic albums of the whole decade. Starting with the Bronx metal into the top 3. Baroness, Gold and Ray, really a polarizing album this year. The production was the thing that most of the fans really didn't care about. Baroness are maybe the most consistent band of the decade in my opinion, especially considering their sound is developing a lot from each record to the next, and this one is right up my alley. As you saw in my review, this progressive stoner metal record incorporates so many different great elements that this is one of the highlights of their career for me. I know that the production is really noisy, there is some clipping, but I think it's all intentional. I think it's made to have an even stronger contrast between the more silent, folkier songs on this album, considering it's their first album with a new guitarist Gina Gleason, who also contributes some female vocals to this. I absolutely love Gold and Grey. I understand the hatred for the production, but in my opinion it works. Baroness taking the Bronx Medal for 2019 in my list. And the runner-up, I actually wear a t-shirt from this band right now. See this crocodile? It's the Lizard Wizard, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard to be correct. Infest the Rat's Nest, my number 2. King Gizzard turn up the volume and arrive at their career high point so far with this thrash and stoner metal sci-fi dystopia. They continue good storytelling, typical Gizzard trademarks and an adventurous new sound. Just a brilliant album. I came to discover some thrash metal classics and newer albums over the last few years, but this one really blew me away. I know this may be not so impressive for some people who are really far into thrash metal and love all these classic sounds, because the production is not as heavy and not as crisp as on some of these classic thrash metal albums or even modern neo-thrash. But the thing is that King Gizzard are not a thrash metal band, they are not even a metal band. They are a psychedelic rock band, and this album is one of their greatest adventures so far. They have changed so much from album to album over this decade and really kind of managed to develop their own sound even further with this. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Infest the Rat's Nest, not only my metal album of the year, but also my number 2. My number 1 is Lana Del Rey, Norman fucking Rockwell. I gave this album a 95% in my last review, and this is finally the album that Lana has built up to the whole decade, I think. This art pop record continues her best work to date with a new, partly more psychedelic sound and some amazing production. Please watch my review of this album to get more into the details. All I have to say is that I really appreciate the direction that Lana is going into with this album with producer Jack Antonoff. The longer songs, the more psychedelic and more mellow songs, and also the best songwriting on a Lana record to date makes this by far my album of the year. Lana Del Rey taking my number 1 spot. If you are interested in more year-end lists, you can find Spotify lists in the description box below, where you can listen to my top 50 songs of 2019. And also stay tuned for my decade list that will appear on this channel also this month. This was Bruce Reviews Music, my favorite albums of 2019. Goodbye!